I'm gonna have to get this Easter egg eventually, aren't I? What is up, my fire amigos? Welcome back to the channel for another Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Zombies Guide in 2025. What I have for you guys today is going to be Alpha Omega's Easter egg. If you couldn't tell by my dry, sarcastic heave, I'm not a big fan of doing this Easter egg. It just doesn't bode with me correctly, or bode with me well, I should say. I'm not gonna go grovel on why I hate it. I'm here to tell you guys how to beat it. So, as per usual, let's go ahead and start off with the class. Do you need that lovely, lovely Hellion Salvo? The answer is no. In this Easter egg, the first step of the Easter egg gives you a Pack-a-Punch weapon and a free Pack-a-Punch Ray Gun Mark II. So there is no point whatsoever to search the box for the Hellion Salvo. With that out of the way, let's focus on the class. For the elixirs, I'm running Temporal Gift, Control Z, Shopping Free, and Perkaholic. All of these elixirs you don't have to run. I am, however, going to showcase each of the elixirs I find the best for this Easter egg. Starting off with the classics. Other than Temporal Gift, we have Equip Mint, Arsenal Accelerator, Point Drops, that's the odd one out, Always Done Swiftly, Burnt Out, Know What But There, or Stock Option. Any of those would work. For the commons, we have 3. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm using Control Z, but the other 2 would be Nukes and Bullet Boost. Bullet Boost is the same effect as it is on 9, even though I didn't mention it on 9. It will come in handy for a particular step. For the rares, there are only 2, Insta-Kills, and Talking About Regeneration. For the legendaries, the most important one out of them all is going to be wall-to-wall clearance. That's going to save you a ton of time. And as for the other one to get from the legendary, the only one that I thought of that was really helpful was Power Keg. Let's go on to the epics. Like I said, I'm using Shopping Free and Perkaholic. Shopping Free is way more important than the Perkaholic. The Perkaholic is just a self-preference. But others that you could run for this would be Head Drama, and then the usual 3, Join the Party, Phoenix Up, and Near-Death Experience. Now let's go on to the talismans. For the talismans, we have only 3. One of them is the Pocket Dimension Wraithfires. This talisman increases the total Wraithfires from 2 to 3. It's very helpful on this map in particular. The only rare one is going to be the Grand Amulet of whatever circle you want, 1st through 4th. We'll get to the reason of why that's important in a second. And then the last one would be Sigil of the 4th Circle. Same concept. Let's segue on to the perks. The perks I'm running in my game, with the exception of the Perkaholic, are Time Slip, Victorious Tortoise, Stamina Up, and Winter's Wail on the modifier. Stamina Up and Winter's Wail intertwine. They can either be A in the modifier or not in the modifier. That's where the Grand Amulet comes in. If you're going to run that, start with Stamina. Stamina is going to be very helpful in this map. But for Sigil of the 4th Circle, if you buy Stamina in the tonic slot, you have Infinite Sprint. Same thing. Let's go into other perks you could run for this main quest. I'm going to get the odd one out of the way. Blaze Phase. No, you heard me right. Blaze Phase is a perk that you can run. Another one can be Death Perception, Dying Wish, Quick Revive, Bandolier Bandit, Zombshell, and Ethereal Razor. All of those perks would be viable for this Easter egg. Let's go on to the other half of the class, being the startup. For the specialist weapon, absolutely anything is viable, but for solo play specifically, you want the Ragnaroks or the Katana. Those 2. For the grenades, like I mentioned earlier, it's Wraithfires. Wraithfires are really good for this Easter egg. And then for the starting weapon, you do not want to start with the Strife. There's an item later on that the Strife will interfere with if you have the Stiletto on it. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. We'll get to that later. But the 2 to start with would be the RK7 or the SOG. Those 2 only. They're the best point weapons out of the 6 starting weapons, minus the Strife. Now, before we get started with this Easter egg, I want to give a huge shout out to Absolute Jump Scare on the subreddit. According to the subreddit, 5 years ago, he made an absolute goated cheat sheet for this Easter egg, and I will be hinting at that over time throughout this Easter egg. Okay? To start this Easter egg, the first thing we need is going to be Pack-a-Punch and the teleporter pads. You can get the shield along the way. If you want to know how to build the shield, I'll leave a link to that video in the description, because I'm not going to go over that. However, I will go over the teleporter and the Pack-a-Punch. Let's start with the teleporter. The teleporter has 3 parts. The first part's in transfusion facility, the second part's in the greenhouse, and the third one's in the generators. For transfusion facility, the first location can be on this crate here. The second location can be next to this doctor's chair here. And then the third one can be found in this closet here. For the greenhouse, the first spawns next to the stairs on the bottom floor here. The second one's going to be in the kitchen here. And then the third one is going to be on the balcony here. For the part in the generators, as soon as you enter the generators from the right side of the beds, it's going to be on the left rail here. The second spawn's against this wall here. And then the third one is going to be next to the panel for the lockdown sequence we'll talk about in a second, right here. This can be built in either ABD control or the greenhouse. I would recommend building it in an ABD control. It'll come in handy later. Now let's talk about Pack-a-Punch. To start Pack-a-Punch, we need to make it all the way down to the generators and interact with this panel. Interacting with this panel will start a 60-second lockdown. Once the 60-second lockdown is up, all the gas will be out of the bunker and into the houses. We need to go up to the top half of the map and clean out the Nova 6 gas from the houses. The specific houses will emit Nova 6 gas out of the windows. You need to go to those houses and clean out their vents. I'm going to showcase each of the vents now. This is Yellow House. This is Greenhouse. This is Prisoner Holding. This is Transfusion Facility. This is APD Interrogation. And this is Operations. What we're doing with these gas valves is we're going up to these gas valves that have Nova 6 sludge. I'm calling it sludge. And we're holding us in these drain valves to exude it out. It takes about 10 ticks. Just be on guard. There will be Nova 6 bombers and Nova 6 tainted zombies that will come to kill you. This is where equipment and or arsenal accelerator will come in handy so you can protect yourself here. Once all 4 houses have been cleared out, operations will be available again. You need to flip the round. Flipping the round will give you access to Rushmore. Rushmore is the backbone of this entire quest. When activating Rushmore, he will give you a long-ass speech about what happened to him and what we need to do in order to get to the Elemental Shard. The Elemental Shard is locked into APD, and he wants clearance codes. For the first clearance code, you need to have the Galvanuckles. The Galvanuckles are in this bus here. These are normally 5,000 points, but if you have wall-to-wall clearance, you can buy it for 10 points. Also, this is where shopping free would come in handy. Since the timing of shopping free is everything, you don't want to use it automatically because of the 1 minute's cooldown. If you pop shopping free before you enter the bus, you could buy the door for 1750 or 2000 in co-op, then buy the Galvanuckles, and then rush to the generator. That timing is everything, but it makes it so much faster. That's a side note, but going back to the Galvanuckles, what we're looking for is 1 TV out of 4 in the bunker side of the map that's going to be exuding static. The first thing you need to make sure is that Rushmore is done talking or else this won't spawn in, but the 4 spawns for these TVs are 1 in the diner, 1 in the lounge, and then 2 in the beds, to the left and to the right of Pack-a-Punch. When you find the TV, it will make a very loud noise. It's definitely noticeable. You need to kill a zombie next to this TV with the Galvanuckle specifically. When you kill a zombie next to the TV, it'll turn on, giving you a sequence of letters and numbers. I would recommend having subtitles on for this. But let's go ahead and take a listen to our TV here.
F05 E0945 C0400.
The TV gave me a sequence of 5 letters and 5 numbers in a specific order. It gave me A is 1100, F 0530, D 0345, E 0945, C 0400, and it didn't mention B. That would be handy for later. If you want to re-listen to these to get these down, you can always interact with the TV again, like I did casually, because I was trying to reload my gun, but that is something you can do. Now, what these letters and numbers correspond to is the houses above you on the upper half of the map. Each house has a mailbox. I'm going to go through them real quick. Yellow house is A, green house is B, prisoner holding is C, transfusion is D, operations is E, and then APD interrogation is F, and the mailbox is way over here if you ever want to find it. If you want to know a trick to make finding these houses easier, I'm going to explain how a street works normally in any kind of neighborhood. When you're going down a street, all the house numbers increase in value by their even or odd cents. So if let's say one house starts at the number of 100, going down the street it would go like 100, 104, 108, 112, and then the other side of the street would be like 101, 105, 109, 113. That's how it would read going down the street, and these houses are the exact same way. So let's put A through F as 1 through 6. On the side with the yellow house, you have A, C, E, so this would be 1, 3, 5. And then the green house is B, D, F, and that would be 2, 4, 6. If that makes sense to you, that's definitely the easier strategy I use to find these houses. Now going back to what these houses' numbers are. The numbers correspond to a clock that's inside each of the houses. The first clock is here in the yellow house. This is the clock in the green house. This is the clock in prisoner holding. This is the clock in transfusion facility. This is the clock in operations. And then this is the clock in ABD interrogation. What we need to do is set these clocks to the times given to us by the TV in the order the TV gives it to us. If you're curious on how to read it, let's take the example of A1100. That would read as A equals 11 o'clock. If we do these out of order, the game will tell you that you did it out of order, and then you have to flip around and kill a new zombie next to the TV you had prior. It's going to be the same sequence, thankfully, but this will happen as a punishment. Keep that in mind. To set these times in the houses, you need to simply hold X or interaction on the crank here in order to move it every 15 minutes. You may notice I'm punching these during this section. Punching the clocks will turn the time by 1 hour. All these times would be set from 30 minutes to 2 hours from the time given to us by the TV. When you fix the time correctly, it will say the countermeasures have been opened up for the house. Most of these are traps except for 2, and I'll go over those in a second. So A was a trap, and then F is APD interrogation. I set that to 5:30. That one became a trap. D is transfusion facility. I set that clock to 3:45. That one is a trap. E is operations. I set that to 9:45. This one is your free ray gun Mark II. The case is on the left. It'll open up as soon as you get the clock right. And then the last one is C for 4 o'clock. This one is the weapons storage locker, and this will give you your pack-a-punch weapon. You can get either A, an ICR, B, a Titan, C, a Swordfish, or D, a Mog 12. Once you have set all 5 of those in the order the TV gave you, the last thing to do is set the last house in your sequence. In this case, it was house B, and that's the greenhouse. To set this clock, you can either interact with it or punch it, and it'll just start spinning fast. Whatever time it stops on, that is the time you need to put into Rushmore. When I punched my clock, I got the time of 9:30. So what I had to do was rush all the way over to Rushmore, and I had to type in 0930. Now, going back to that cheat sheet I was telling you guys about from Absolute Jump Scare, did you know that there are 6 total combinations these clocks can be? Well, there are. I'm going to take a look at this right here real quick. In my game, I got the A, which is 11 o'clock, and I went from there. All you need to do for this step is that you need to find your first unique time that the TV will give you, and then just go from there. So you don't have to sit and listen to the TV from there. This makes it really easy for you guys. After you insert the correct code into Rushmore, mine being 0930 in this example, he will say nope, but that just means he doesn't trust you still, and he's going to have you go on to his core values. For the rest of the main quest, it works similarly to Rave in the Redwoods and Shout and Shuffle. You need to first talk to Rushmore, and he'll give you a description of what you need to do, and then when you finish with it, talk to him again to start the next one. For the first core value, Rushmore needs a particular Nova 6 crawler that has been tainted by element 115. This is what's known as the Red Nova Crawler step. For the Red Nova Crawler, he can be found anywhere within the bunker section. I primarily found him in like the beds, generators, or solitary. Definitely generators and solitary though. When we find this crawler, we need to take him to the transfusion facility. The easiest passageway is to take the exit from solitary up to the transfusion facility. When doing this, a ton of zombies are going to spawn in, and these will not stop spawning in until the step is done. There are 2 ways to combat this. The first way is one of those elixirs I told you guys to bring in. Nukes. If you guys remember way back in the day, years ago, when Codename Pizza did Myth Busting Mondays, someone asked this question to see if it was doable to do it with nukes, or will the nuke kill the crawler? And it's still true. The nukes will not kill the crawler for this step. So if you're ever having trouble taking the crawler all the way up to the transfusion facility, you can use a nuke to buy you some time. It's not a whole lot of time, but it is some time. Now, if you don't have any nukes, that's fine. I got a second solution. The teleporter pad. The first thing to do would be to place one on the exit of solitary. There's a pad right there. And then when you find your crawler, lure him to the closest teleportation pad. The place I found my crawler was in solitary, as of the stairwell into the generators. So what I did was I waited for the crawler to crawl onto the teleporter pad with me. And the moment he did that, I placed the teleporter pad. If you do this, the crawler will teleport with you in the snap of a finger. You don't even have to hold X to teleport. And once that's done, you carry him to the transfusion facility. If you kill the crawler at any point just by accident, you will have to flip the round and try again, and he'll still be in the bunker section for you to find. But if you want to use this teleporter trick, make sure to pick up the teleporter pad that you transported him on in order to restart that process again. Once the crawler is in the transfusion facility, lead him over to this cubbyhole here, and he'll automatically crawl in there, and then you can start core value 2. For core value 2, Rushmore says that there is an intruder on Camp Edward that's besides us, and they have stolen an L115 canister. We need to find this intruder and have him give it back to us. The intruder is Marlton, and the place he's hiding is, if you go through the greenhouse backyard entrance to the bunker, he's going to be hiding in this door here. You can interact with this door as much as you want, but he's not going to do anything unless we get some reinforcements. Those reinforcements is Project Toy Soldier. As a fair reminder, this can be done at any point during the game. I'm just going to showcase it now for quality's sakes. For Project Toy Soldier, there are a total of 4 codes that you need to find. The first one's in Operations. This is the same code every game, 7626. The second one is going to be in APD Interrogation. This one has 3 spawn points. On this desk behind the radio, to the left of the main entrance to APD Interrogation, and then on the top floor to the right of the drop-off point on this desk. The third one is going to be an APD Control. It's under this stack of newspapers. You can shoot it off or punch them off, doesn't matter. And then the last one is going to be in Yellow House, but it requires a key. If you go to this key rack in Solitary, you're going to find this one key that looks out of place. Pick up that key, and then go up to that desk and unlock the key drawer in order to find your code. Now, on these codes that I mentioned before, there's going to be name tied to them. If you're wondering where these names are on these slips of paper, they're at the very top. For Operations, it is the first code to type in, since it's always the same one. It is the access to Project Toy Soldier. Rushmore will give you the order of the people you need to insert these in, so pay attention to the names on the paper. The one in APD Interrogation is Sawyer. That's the second code to insert. My Sawyer code was 2376. The third code to insert is APD Control. This one is McCain. My McCain code was 5721. And the last one is going to be Purnell. This one's in the desk drawer. My Purnell code was 1566. Sawyer, McCain, and Purnell are all random every game. Keep that in mind. But once we have all 4 codes inserted, Project Toy Soldier will be granted to us, and if we go into the storage, we're going to see this toy soldier robot here. What we need to do is take this robot all the way to the entrance. You don't even have to interact with the door in order for Marlton to get spooked. All he's going to hear is the footsteps, and then he's going to toss the canister out. When he tosses the canister out, you need to take it to the transfusion facility. It's going to go on this desk here. Once we have finished with core value 2, we're able to start core value 3, but the first thing I want you guys to do is type in the code 7225 into Rushmore. So when you type in that code, a bonfire sale is going to spawn. You might be thinking, is this where temporal gift comes in handy? And yes, it does. Just like Blood of the Dead is very important for this. So pop your temporal gift, grab that bonfire sale, and rush down to Pack-a-Punch. You want to get the element of brain rot on your gun. Now, if you don't want to waste your points, or you didn't bring the temporal gift in, that's fine. You can always use bullet boost to give you a random element. But now that we have the brain rot on our gun, we need to start core value 3. Talk to Rushmore, and he says he's going to need a server. This server is going to be in the powerhouse. And what we need to do is have a jolting jack shoot us with his projectile spit in order to short circuit the server box that we can't interact with. When doing so, it'll open up, giving us access to it. The problem is, if you try to run with this server all the way from powerhouse to operations, where it needs to go, it's not going to work. You're going to run out of time because it'll overheat. So we need to use the teleporter pads. The two placements are one in the powerhouse right next to the server spot, and then the other one is going to be to the left of Brew Perk that I'm showcasing on screen now. The moment the server box opens, press X on it or hold X to grab it, but then immediately run. If you wait too long to start running, you're going to run out of time. This is where Stamina Up does come in handy in the modifier slot, but you can do it without the modifier slot and still have Stamina Up. But if you didn't bring Stamina Up at all, this is where the katana will come in handy. Because of that speed boost, it'll give you plenty of time to get there. So you're going to pick it up, run through the teleporter, run all the way to Rushmore's house, and place it in this box here. You should get it with seconds to spare without the katana, but if you have the katana, it'll be a little safer, so I would recommend that over the just Stamina Up option. When that is done, we're able to start the second half of core value 3. This is where the brain rot comes in handy. There are a total of 3 posters that are going to be emitting a green fog. These will also make a very loud noise. Let's take a listen.
Strange suggestion. What?
That noise is what a zombie would sound like if he was brain rotten. All these posters will have a broken arrow symbol on the bottom right corner. The first one is going to be in the beds across from the Pack-a-Punch. The second one is in the lounge, is the George Washington poster, and then the third one is going to be in the greenhouse on the stairwell at the top floor. The goal is to brain rot a zombie close by, and when it's close enough, it'll run to the poster first, knocking over a poster. Once it knocks over the poster, you'll get a clearance code, one of the 3 that Rushmore is looking for. In my game, I got the greenhouse to be 3301. For the beds, I got 8736. And for the lounge, I got 7703. The order you input these is not specific. You can input these in any order you want to, but just like before, Rushmore will tell you that there is a minute before each clearance code. So I would recommend getting all 3 first and then punching them all in. Once you have all 3 inserted, you'll have officially completed core value 3. After finishing core value 3, you can start core value 4, and for core value 4, Rushmore's going to go some stupid rant about patriotism or whatnot, but then all the power is going to shut off. In order to restore Rushmore's power, there are a total of 6 switch panels in the bunker half of the map that we need to switch. The first one is here in the generators, the second one is here in the beds, the third one is here in the lounge, the fourth one is here in the diner, the fifth one is here in the storage, and the last one is in solitary. It's right next to the Thompson wall buy, or the Tommy gun wall buy. How this section works is that the game will start you off with a set of lights for every single switch. The moment you flip a switch up or down, the lights will change. On screen right now, I'm going to showcase what each of these switches will switch lights for. For example, if you flip the one in the generators, the lights that'll change will be light 3, 4, and 5. That's how it works. Each of these lights combined all have 3 different ways to change all of the lights spread across all 6 switches. The puzzly aspect of this is to flip all the switches in a certain order until all the light switches are green. That is also something on this cheat sheet by Absolute Jump Scare. There are a total of 15 combinations that this can be. For the switches, it is a total of 4 switches in a specific order. That's what's labeled on this chart here. But there's a very easy way to do this every single time. When you're looking at the panel switches, each of the switches have their lever facing up or down. The simplest way to do this is to make sure that 3 of the panels are switching up, and then 3 of the panels are facing down. The 3 panels that are facing up would be beds, generators, and diner. And then the other 3 would be lounge, storage, and solitary. They all need to face down. When all of those are set, all lights should be green. When all of the lights are green, we need to switch on the power, and that will end a core value 4. Now, I'm going to talk about real quick the only thing I haven't mentioned so far, and that is the reason of point drops. For point drops, it is a way to skip character quotes, because a lot of these character quotes that Rushmore is going through are quite long. This is more specifically toward core value 3. I didn't talk about it, but if you pop the point drops at a certain point, you can skip him talking about having to insert the code in like 1 minute. That quote there. Another way to skip character quotes is the easier one, is if you have them start talking about core value 5, teleport all the way to the power station, interact with this panel. You can interact with it as much as you want. I don't know why this is the case, but doing so, when it gets to the point where he's going to shout at you saying, "Oh, you didn't get it in time, try again," that will skip the rest of the quote that Rushmore's talking about, and then you can go from there. For core value 5, it is also a 2-parter. Talking to Rushmore, he'll talk to you how we need to get 3 mannequin parts to put on a mannequin that McCain is trapped in order to repair him. There are going to be a total of 3 lockdowns. Depending on which mannequin you start with, it will determine the outcome of how this next part is going to play out. If you start with Yellow House, your Yellow House mannequin is going to be right here, and then it'll go to the diner here, and then for the last one, it's going to go here. That is the specific order. What we need to do is overheat the mannequin. It is time-based. We just need to survive in the area for the amount of time given. And when it overheats, it'll drop a mannequin arm. That's for the first one. For the second lockdown in this example I'm giving you, it's going to be another arm to survive in the diner for the time given. And then the third one's definitely the hardest one. This is where something like Blaze Phase would come in handy. Talking about regen, insta-kills, the third Wraithfire, because prisoner holding is so stupid. You gotta run out with your shield, Victoria's Tortoise, I don't know. I don't like the prisoner holding lockdown. I don't. When you do finish the one for prisoner holding, you will get ahead. I'm going to talk about the example I got in my game, because that's the second half. If you were to get the lockdowns that start with the greenhouse backyard, you can do circles in front of the mannequin. You've got plenty of space to train around. Just use the Wraithfires, saving your specialist weapon. For the second lockdown, it's going to be in the lounge. Right here, you can go in circles. This one's a little harder. This is where I would recommend having the specialist weapon if you have it. If you want to save it, that's fine. It's perfectly fine. And then the third one's going to be in the backyard of the transfusion facility. For the transfusion facility, it's easier than prisoner holding because you can do big laps in this L shape. You can. That's what makes it so easy. But if you're having a hard time, I would recommend popping Arsenal Accelerator by the lockdown of Lockdown 2 so that you can have your specials at the ready for whenever you need it. When you complete that lockdown, your head is going to be there when it blows up after the time. With all that lockdown shenanigans being done, you need to hold X on this mannequin and APD interrogation. And then this will start another ton of character quotes. Using the same characters, the quote skips I told you about before with point drops and the thing and the power station, you can try to skip them all. I don't know the timing on the point drops. I don't. But once they're all done talking, we have part 2. Part 2, Rushmore says we need to transfer his life force from the mannequin into an elemental orb. Before we do this, I want you to type in one of 2 codes. It's either going to be 3279 or 6662. Typing these in will give you 5 minutes of undead man walking. Now let's go ahead and talk about why this is the case. The elemental orb has one of 3 spots. It can spawn in either A, the upstairs of the yellow house in this window, B, the downstairs of the greenhouse in this broken barricade, or C, in the beds next to all of these mannequins. The moment you find this orb, infinite zombies will spawn. That is no joke, so that's the reason for undead man walking for 5 minutes. With that being said, each of these placements has its own designated path. You need to follow this orb to a T in order to lead it from where it started all the way to the mannequin. So in my game, I got the one in the beds. This is not going to be a simple path like the shortest path possible. No, it will go the extra extravagant route all the way over to the mannequin until it is done. It's really stupid. Once the elemental orb is there, you don't even have to hold X to put it into the mannequin. It will do it itself. And then there will be some more character quotes, and you can stop with all the core values. They're all done. Once you talk to Rushmore after completing core value 5, he will give you access to the APD and the elemental shard. He states that we need to start a release sequence to open up the APD. To start the release sequence, go up to this computer here and hit X. Now this works the same way as it does on Moon. You need to fill soul canisters at the base of the pyramid in order to open it up. These canisters are only charged by 80 AM units. They are a little stronger than the base zombies, so I would recommend having the Mark II or your grenades to help you out with this. I don't know the exact amount of zombies to kill, but I do know that when the APD starts to open, they will stop spawning and they'll all just despawn when that happens. When it does start to open, you can go to the front door and see the Avogadro pop out like it's a girl on the birthday cake, as Dempsey would say. Anyway, when this happens, the shield will be teleported to the bottom half of the map since the boss fight takes place in the bottom half of the map specifically. When the Avogadro comes out of the APD, the server will say that there's a big threat, we need to set the nuke off on Nuketown, and then the nuke will blow up Nuketown. Doesn't do anything to us, thankfully, because we're in the bunker. Serves its purpose. So now what we need to do, Rushmore says to trap the Avogadro back into the APD, we need to fill soul canisters. If we go to the computer that we started the release sequence in, there's going to be computers that say which canisters are not full. The rooms are storage, lounge, diner, beds. Those 4 rooms have a canister. We're going to start with storage. The storage canister is right here. Now for these souls, you just need to constantly kill the 80 AM units that spawn in to charge the canister. If you take too long to kill the units, the amount of essence sucked into the machine will deplete over time. Let's talk about the Avogadro. The Avogadro is going to constantly chase you in this boss fight. He has a total of 3 attacks. The first attack being a stun. If he stuns you, you're going to lose access to your weaponry for about 3 to 5 seconds. His basic attack is the projectile. He's going to shoot a bolt of electricity at you. This will hit you for 100 damage. And then finally, the charge up attack, you will notice this one. He's going to start rolling into a ball like this and instantly charge at you. This attack will hit for 150 damage. There are 2 ways to combat this. Number 1 is Victorious Tortoise and the shield. If you have the shield out with Victorious Tortoise, you can avoid all of his attacks. That's the reason I told you the shield will be teleported down there, because you can easily go back to APD control to get a new shield. Just be on guard when that happens, because the Avogadro will follow you to the shield. Going back to the Avogadro's second weakness, and that's going to be the Ray Gun Mark II. You can shoot the Avogadro with the Ray Gun Mark II, but it's only going to stun him. Keep that in mind. It will stun him. It's not going to kill him. We as a player cannot damage the Avogadro. The only way we're going to defeat him is if we use the soul canisters to reopen the APD and shove him back in there. Now, as for the soul canisters, you will be locked into the room that you're in until Rushmore gives you the signal that you're A-OK to leave. If this is the case, you got to look for the max ammo and carpenter and go to the next room. So we started with the storage, and my max ammo carpenter was spawned right in front of the Titan. The next place I went to was the lounge. Now, as a reminder, when you leave an area after filling the souls up, the Avogadro is going to fill that room with electricity, making it unplayable for any character to go back to that room before. I would recommend doing the side rooms first before you do the beds. That way you can just do the beds and go straight through the APD control. It just makes it easier for transversing the area. Anyway, go back to the lounge. The canister for the lounge can be found to the right of Ted and the left of the tent here in this corner. And then for this one, you can go in complete circles. But the biggest issue is going to be the Avogadro. He has plenty of room to double tap you with 2 electric bolts. So the best thing to do is to keep your eye on this chimney in the center of the room. If you put the chimney in between you and the Avogadro, you have plenty of time to react to any kind of attack he's going to do. Otherwise, if you're in the line of sight of the Avogadro, make sure to pull your shield out, but still try to get the kills as much as you can. I would recommend having the specialist weapon for here if you don't have it already, or use all of your Wraith Fires, and then maybe a Control Z or 2 if you have it, to help you kill all the zombies. Do not grab nukes, because I definitely grabbed a nuke during this, and then all of my essence depleted out of my capsule, and I had to recharge the capsule after 30 seconds. Be very cautious of this. Once the canister was full, I grabbed the max ammo and the carpenter and went to the diner. Now, in the diner, it is a U-shaped building. There are 2 sets of walkways you can go through, the inner walkway and the outer walkway. The best thing to do to avoid the Avogadro is to have him follow you down one set of walkway, and then when he's on the side that you're on, go to the other side of the room and do the same thing. You need to kill zombies while doing this pattern. It is the best way to avoid an Avogadro and multitask to do this to fill the canister up. As for the canister, it's going to be in this corner here to the right of the vapor. Once the canister is filled, you can then go to the beds. The canister in the beds is right here in this corner. You cannot cross the intermediate area, but you can do full circles. It's probably the easiest one to do because it's the largest area possible. Now, with this beds area, you have to be extremely careful. The Avogadro can hit you from anywhere. That is the only problem with the bed section, is that it's wide open for his range of attacks. Just keep an eye on him at all times. If you need to stun with a ray gun Mark II, go ahead and do so. Once that canister is full, the last thing to do is go into the APD control, and you need the Avogadro to be there with you. When he's in this room with you, there are a few things you can do. One, you can shoot him with stock option with your gun out to put him back in the APD. 2, I believe you can Galvan Knuckle punch him into there. I could be very mistaken. But the third one is what I did in my game. I punched him in there using my katana. If you constantly punch him in using the katana, he'll go in there very smoothly. Now, when he reaches the stairwell back to the sealed hatch of the APD, he'll just be sucked in there automatically, and there are 2 things we need to do to finish this main quest. The very first one is go back to the computer that you had before to interact with the machine once again. The top screen should say that all canisters are full, and then when you hit X on the screen, it'll send them back into the APD at the Hanford site, which is transit. The last thing to do to end this Easter egg once and for all, you need to go up back to the APD door, watch it open slowly once again, but instead of the Avogadro, you're going to have the Elemental Shard. I thank you for watching, my fiery amigos. Peace out.